Welcome. Today, we're not just going to talk about filling out a visa application. Nope. We're going to audit one. We're putting on our detective hats to uncover all those little hidden reasons that applications get rejected before you even think about hitting that submit button. So let's kick things off with a number that's, well, it's pretty shocking. 70%. That's roughly how many visa rejections happen completely silently. The decision is made based on your paperwork and your paperwork alone, long before you ever get a chance to sit down and explain yourself. You know, these rejections are almost always caused by what people in the know call silent killers. And you can think of them as these tiny, almost invisible clues in your application that just scream high risk to a trained eye. So today, our mission is to find and totally eliminate every single one of them.
All right, let's dive into the investigation. First stop, your financial story. Because believe me, every single deposit, every withdrawal in your bank account, it tells a story, and we have to make sure it's telling the right one.
So you look at your bank statement, you see the money in there, and you think, great, I'm all set. But from the visa officer's point of view, they see a big recent deposit, and suddenly all these alarm bells start going off. It's a classic red flag called lump sum dumping. To them, it looks like you just borrowed money to make your account look good. And if you can't explain exactly where it came from, that's a huge problem. So how do you prove that money is legitimately yours? Well, you follow this simple but absolutely critical rule, the 28-day rule. What this means is the money you need for your trip has to sit in your account untouched for at least 28 days before you print that bank statement. This is how you prove the money has matured, that it's really yours, not some loan you got yesterday. And here is another sneaky one, this time involving your salary. Let's say your payslip says you make $2,000, but your bank statement only shows a deposit for $1,800. You might think, oh, that's just after taxes, no big deal. But to the visa officer, it's not a small detail. It's a glaring inconsistency. And their immediate thought is fake payslip, application denied. It's really that black and white. Okay, let's move on to our second area of investigation. This one tackles the single biggest reason for rejection, and that is the fear that you won't go back home. This is what's officially known as immigrant intent. The real challenge here is that you have to answer the visa officer's number one unspoken question: why are you going to come back? And let me tell you, just saying you will, that's not going to cut it. You have to prove it with cold, hard, tangible evidence. This is where your anchor evidence is so important. These are the documents that prove you have major responsibilities and assets that tie you to your home country. We're talking land deeds, a car registration, proof you own a business. Even things like marriage certificates or birth certificates for children who aren't traveling with you. Those are powerful anchors that show you have deep roots and every reason to return. You know, even your job letter has a hidden trap. A generic letter that just says, yep, they work here. That's pretty weak. For that letter to have any real power, it absolutely must include a specific phrase, expected return to work date. Without that firm commitment, the officer might just assume your job isn't really waiting for you. All right, now we're getting to the real heart of the audit, the consistency check. You've got to picture the visa officer laying out all your documents like a forensic accountant. They are cross-referencing every single detail. And to them, a tiny inconsistency isn't a mistake. It's a potential lie. And the penalties for these kinds of things can be, well, they can be severe. A perfect example, forgetting to mention on your application form that you were rejected for a visa years ago. It doesn't matter if it was for a different country. They have shared databases. To them, that's not an accident, that's deception. And the result is often an automatic multi-year ban from applying again. Your travel plan itself goes under the microscope. For instance, you can't say you're taking a 2-week vacation, but then only show a hotel booking for the first 2 nights. The officer's mind immediately goes to, okay, so where are you staying for the other 12 nights? Your trip length, your bookings, your bank balance, it all has to tell one single logical story. And oh, this is a classic trap if you're planning to stay with a friend or a relative. Just writing their name and number down is not nearly enough. To prove this person is a real, legitimate host, you need a whole package from them, a formal invitation letter, a copy of their passport or residence permit, and even a copy of something like a utility bill to prove they actually live where they say they live. Finally, let's talk about the documents themselves, what you could call document hygiene, because it's not just about what you provide, it's also about how you present it. A messy, unprofessional application can be a silent killer all on its own. This one's a simple, non-negotiable rule. If any of your official documents, like a birth certificate or a property title, aren't in English, they must be translated by a certified professional. Using Google Translates, or even worse, doing it yourself, that's an immediate red flag. It tells them you cut corners, and that document, maybe your whole application, gets tossed. Now, here's a modern check you might not even think about. They will absolutely Google the companies on your resume. If they can't find a basic website or a LinkedIn profile for your employer, or if the phone number on your reference letter doesn't work, they might just decide it's a ghost company. And just like that, all your work experience could be dismissed as completely fake. So it's so important that you get this. A visa application is not a test where you can get a 95% and still pass. As you can see, finding even a single one of these silent killers we've talked about is often enough for an officer to stamp rejected on your file and just move on to the next one. So I think the biggest takeaway from our little audit today is really a change in how you think about this whole process. Stop seeing your application as just a checklist of documents. Instead, start seeing it as a story that you're telling through paper. Every document is a chapter, and every single chapter has to be consistent, it has to be believable, and it has to lead the reader to one simple conclusion. You're a genuine visitor who will, without a doubt, return home. So, I'll leave you with this challenge. Before you submit anything, read through your entire application one last time. But this time, read it like you're the detective. What's the one weak chapter? What's the one tiny inconsistency that a skeptical officer would circle with a big red pen? Find it and fix it before they do.